Joining me today to kick off today's show is a man with a 15-0 record, including 13 KOs to his name. He goes by the nickname Sugar, and that's Cain Sandoval. Cain, I appreciate you taking time to come on today, man.
I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Well, first things first, you have an upcoming fight. You're just about a couple weeks out now, two and about maybe a half week now out from June 21st when you'll be fighting next. What's going through your mind right now as you prepare for this fight?
Just I'm really sharp,
Hmm.
Just I've been in camp probably 10 to 8 weeks, sparring, strength conditioning. This is my first full camp with Freddie. My last camp was kind of like 5 weeks and a half.
Okay.
So this is my first full camp with them, and I feel great.
We look at your career, and we're going to get into that in a little bit, but you obviously are already 15-0, 13 KOs, and now you're saying you feel great. You feel like this is going to be one of the best versions of yourself, obviously having Freddie Roach here in your corner for the entire time. How special of a Cain Sandoval can we be expecting now on June 21st?
You just expect the only thing I'm gonna give y'all is greatness, and
Hmm.
I've been putting my everything in this camp, sparring. My last camp with Freddie, my first camp with Freddie was really mental because I was going through some personal stuff with my
Hmm.
daughter and stuff. But this camp is like, all right, I'm fighting my first undefeated fighter.
Hmm.
I have to prove a point. We're both undefeated, and I don't feel like I'm gonna lose.
When you talk about your opponent, Jesus Angola, walk us through him a little bit. Obviously, whatever you've seen of him, break him down. What's your thoughts on your opponent?
Um, I seen his fights. I studied him probably like once or twice, but
Okay.
I don't see that he brings anything to the table
All right.
to compete with me.
Hmm.
I seen he's fought veterans or like journeymen and stuff, but
Sure.
he's never been with the ring with somebody like me.
On June 21st, what's the prediction you have for how that fight's going to go down?
Me coming out victorious. I'm not gonna say, "Oh, I'm gonna knock him out." I feel that I am not gonna knock him out, but I'm not
Right.
gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna knock him out." I'm just gonna go out there and get that win.
When the night comes to a conclusion on June 21st, obviously people will be talking about you, whether that's win, lose, whatever happens there. But what's the statement you want to make? What's the kind of the opinion that you want people to have of you when that night comes to conclusion?
That when the night comes to conclusion, I just want people to say, "Okay, he's the real deal."
All right.
I feel like people kind of overlook me. People kind of like don't take me serious in a way,
Hmm.
but that's all gonna change after June 21st.
I love that, man. That actually leads me to a question I want to ask about because when we look at some of the top, let's call it top 25, under 25 guys, you're firmly in that consideration for myself. Obviously, talk about some of the next future stars of boxing. You're firmly in the mix there. And there was something, I forget exactly who you did the interview with, but it was earlier in this year after they gave the Prospect of the Year award in 2024 to Mosi Toma. And you talk about the fact that you believe you deserve that fight and you deserve that award there. Can you take us through that a little bit? Like, what leads you to have such confidence that you believe that, you know what? I belong in that top group. I'm one of, if not the best prospect of the future.
Um, just who I fought and
Right.
the competition I take and the competition I've fought. I fought Javier Molina, former Olympian. I fought Romero Duno,
Mm-hmm.
former world title challenger, and I knocked out my last opponent. It took Oscar Duarte 8 rounds to finish him. I finished him in 4 rounds with one punch.
Right.
So you know, on that, when I see like some people's under 25 list and I'm not there, it's sometimes they don't even know about me. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, like I don't know you existed," and
Right.
I'm like, "Well, you're gonna find out."
For those that have not yet seen you, or maybe be watching you for the first time on June 21st, if you could give a prediction, kind of a discussion of an outline of who Cain Sandoval is, how would you describe yourself?
Entertaining,
I like that.
entertaining. I've never been in a boring fight. That's just my style. That's just who I am. I'm coming there to fight. I'm coming there to not lay down, not to run, not do any all that. I'm gonna show my skills.
Mm-hmm. Well, Cain, I want people to get to know you a little bit better. And so I want to go all the way back. When you first grew up, started pursuing boxing, was boxing the first sport you fell in love with? Was it other sports, or how'd you get into boxing?
It was the first sport I fell in love with. It
All
had
right.
to be. I never tried to pursue any other sport. I never did sports in school. No track and field, no football,
Okay.
nothing. Like I always loved boxing, and that's what I did.
At what point in your life did you start to believe that this was going to be your future, that you had a bright future and you could actually accomplish things that you've already accomplished and so much more in the future?
It was when I was 14, my first national tournament, and
Mm-hmm.
people, I didn't even win this national tournament. I lost it, and it was my second. I won the first day by TKO, and I beat this dude from Texas. Then the second day I fought the 17-time national champion. I didn't even know he was 17-time national champion,
Mm-hmm.
but I lost by split decision, and they're like, you know who's just fought? He's 17 national champion, and I'm like, oh shit, like I'm up there, like this, like I'm at that level.
Right. Another huge portion about you is that you come from Sacramento. That's obviously where your roots are from. And overall, California is a state, obviously, it's loaded with talent in terms of boxing. But Sacramento doesn't have a lot of guys, especially in this era of boxing, representing that city and being able to represent Sacramento, California. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot, because growing up, I wish I had somebody like me to look up to.
Yeah.
So it's like that's my fuel to keep going. I'm like, I'm becoming the person I wish I had.
Okay. When you talk about Sacramento boxing, do you believe that the future is bright? Obviously, you said it might take 10 or so years of people looking up to Cain Sandoval, but do you feel like there's a foundation or much more talent that could come out of Sacramento in the near future?
Definitely, definitely.
Okay.
There's some few amateurs doing their thing, and we'll just see. This upcoming generation. Like I'm the new generation coming in, but the next one, I feel like it's gonna be loaded with talent.
Going back into your story, when you grew up, I believe that if I'm not correct me if I'm mistaken here, but your dad, your aunt, and your grandfathers all were part of boxing growing up. What was that like growing up in that type of family?
It was good. Every time like Morales fought Pacquiao fought, my dad bought the pay-per-views,
Right.
and I don't know if he did it on purpose or he just like, yeah, come watch this with us. And I just sat there and just watched it, just fell in love with it. And I was like 4 or 5 years old.
Okay. As you go through that amateur career, you have over 100 fights in your career. You have a great, very accomplished amateur career, and then you make that pro jump. Was that pro jump easy for yourself? Do you feel like it came kind of effortlessly, or how did that pro jump go for yourself?
It was effortless in the sport aspect, but like
Okay.
the mental aspect it was a lot, because when I was trying to turn pro when I was 18, but COVID happened. And at the
Right.
same time, I was going to become a father. And I'm
Hmm.
like, man, like, am I even gonna go to pro? And I'm like, my daughter's birth was like, all right, like, I have to, I have to make it. It's not even
Right.
like, oh, like, I should try. Like, nah, I'm going to make it.
So you would say the overall jump for yourself was more difficult from the overall outside perspective instead of inside the ring per se for yourself?
Definitely, most
Okay.
definitely, yeah. Because in the gym, like, that's my everything. Everything. I'm
Right.
in control in the gym. Like, when I'm outside, I'm like, man, fuck.
Hmm. Now, overall, in terms of the transition, because obviously there's different styles between amateurs and pro fighting, I think that your style fits a little bit better in the pro style. But for you, was the transition inside the ring in terms of adjusting in that sense, was that part easy for yourself then?
Most definitely, yeah. It
Okay.
was easy because like some tournaments and some fights, like they would just rob me. They would just be like, "Oh, like you lost," and I'm like, "How? I'm like, what the hell?" But
Hmm.
now in pros, like I land that one punch and it's over.
You have the nickname Sugar. How did that come to be?
I don't know. I just grabbed it. I kind of
Okay.
just grabbed it, but if it's it has a ring to it. People remember me by it,
Right.
and people be like, "Oh, sugar!" Like what the I'll be like, but when they see me, they're like, they know shit ain't sweet when they
Hmm.
find me.
Do you know the story of when that happened? Like, was there a certain day and all of a sudden it just came up and you're like, okay, I'm just going to rock with this? Or how did that come to be from that standpoint?
And when I find Manchester Garden, they're like,
Okay.
you need a nickname, or you should get a nickname. And I'm like, I'm put sugar, like I just sugar cane. Like I don't feel like I'm one of the greats. I'm like Sugar Ray, Sugar Shane Mosley,
Sure.
like
All
all
right.
of them. Like I'm one of the greats. Entertaining.
The other component about you is you started branding yourself more and more with it, that you do have the grill. I know you always talk about that on Instagram, different things about that. I wanted the backstory behind that. Like, where did that come to be and when did you first get the grill?
That's Sacramento. That's people ask me. They're like, what is that? Like, what's that? I'm like, that's Sacramento. Like, if you go to Sacramento, like that's just a grill. Like I had a gold one before I had my diamond one,
Right.
but I don't know. I just like it.
All right. Well, I want to get into one of your biggest wins. I feel like when you talk about last year, the Javier Molina win, that was obviously a big statement. I feel like that was almost the point where, for those that just were wondering, is he the real deal? Is he or not? You kind of made your statement that night. Like, that was probably one of your best, maybe statement wins of your career to this point. Walk us through that night. You're going up against a former Olympian. What was that game? What was that performance like? And just break it down that fight for us.
Um, that fight was like I knew because the fight before that fight, Wesley Ferrer, he was 17 wins, 1 loss. And I
Right.
fought him in his backyard. Then my next fight was Javier Molina, and I'm like, I have to like put a statement on it, like an exclamation point,
Mm-hmm.
and I did. I was trying to knock him out. I ain't gonna lie, but like
Right.
after the 7th round, I'm like, I'm not gonna knock this fool out. So let me just whoop his ass. And he didn't win no rounds. So I feel like I made my statement with that fight. Getting ready for it, I was just
Right.
disciplined. It was just great camp, and yeah, I just put the beat on him. I
Do
had
you
to.
do you feel like that performance that night was almost a confidence booster for yourself too, realizing that you know what, I can perform with the best. I'm ready to take the next jump now.
No, it wasn't even a confidence booster. It's just like I just proved everybody and myself.
Okay.
Like I knew I was capable of beating him. Like there was no doubt in my mind.
When you started off your career, you were on a KO streak. Then you obviously had your 2 fights without KO, still had great performances in those fights, and then you end up transitioning over to Freddie Roach's team. I want to walk us through that a little bit. Like, what led to that transition? Why did you feel like at that point in your career it was time to move over to Freddie Roach?
It was time. It was time for that next level.
Okay.
Um, I feel like I'm one of the best fighters in the world, and it's just a matter of time. It's already written.
When you talk about what Freddie Roach has done for you and yourself, obviously we know Freddie Roach is one of the most iconic trainers in all boxing. How have your guys' relationship grown to this point in time?
Like other than boxing, like I could talk to him about any other stuff. We'd be talking outside the gym, outside of training, but
Mm-hmm.
like it's just chemistry, and I like it.
What is Freddie Roach like outside the ring? Because we only see him obviously as a trainer. We see some of the footages and all those things. But what is he like outside of the ring?
He's funny, man. He's funny, calm, and it's like we talk about boxing,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just a funny guy.
All right. When you talk about the impact he's had on your life for the past year, what would you say has been the biggest thing that he's helped develop you in or grow you in as a fighter?
Patience,
All right.
really, like patience. Like when I first got here, I was trying to knock everybody's head off, and he was like, "Hey, you gotta say your punches like angle after this or do this," and I was
Mhm.
like, "All right."
One of the things about Freddie Roach is that, and we see it right now, he has Manny Pacquiao in there. I know you've posted a few different times on your Instagram about that component. When you just get to have some of these great all-time great fighters, great current fighters coming into the gym, sparring against them, fighting with them, how much has that benefited yourself?
It benefited me a lot because back home when I set my camp in Sacramento, nobody wanted to spar me.
Mm,
Man, got to go out of town to spar. Man, it just wasn't it. I needed like that next level. I need to be with spar with world class fighters because I'm a world class fighter.
In terms of Manny Pacquiao, I'm not sure if you guys have obviously done too much together yet, but just overall, I know you've been able to be with him for a little bit. Have you been able to pick his brain at all? And if so, what's one of the biggest lessons that he's taught you?
Manny Pacquiao,
Correct, yeah.
that like don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
Like just watching him train is like he doesn't even have to talk to me. Like I just could just watch him train. I just be like, you're just watching greatness in front of you. It's like insane.
When you talk about Manny Pacquiao returning, obviously there's a lot of debate. Was it the right move? Is it not? What's your thoughts on that? And how do you think Manny Pacquiao is going to perform when he returns to the ring in July?
You never know with Manny. He's a
Right.
legend. Like he's proven people wrong before.
Mm-hmm.
And would you see? We'll see July 19th. I feel like he's gonna come out victorious.
All
But
right.
would you see?
I want to get into your most recent fight. That was a great performance for yourself. Once again, is another great performance against Mark Benaldez, and that was a performance when people look at that and said, "Okay, another step up, another great fighter for yourself. You took care of business and did it in an incredible fashion." Did you expect to make that statement that night, or did you even shock yourself a little bit in that ring?
No, I knew that was gonna happen.
Okay,
I knew I was gonna get the highlight reel. Like I said, like it's already written. Like in
right.
the locker room, I was just the vibes was there, and I'm like, I'm gonna knock this guy out. Like it just depends with what,
Okay, and
and it happened.
and now we transform into this upcoming fight. We already talked about that, but I want to ask about your future because you're 22 years old. We already talked about the fact that you are one of the top prospects. And so I want to ask you now, we look at the next 12, 18 months for yourself. Where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself accomplishing, becoming? Like, where do you see yourself 12 to 18 months from now?
12, 18 months. When is that? 2026, 7 ish.
Yeah, so it'd be about, yeah, let's
The
basically call
beginning
it
of
then. Yeah, pretty
2027.
much. Yeah, so heading into 2027.
World title contention,
All right.
definitely. At 140, maybe even 147. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But we'll try to contention. I'm gonna be for sure top five.
Hmm. Being at 140 super lightweight right now, you just talk about the fact that obviously 147 could even be in the future. When you talk about that, like, do you feel like when you start really making that run and you start becoming a guy that could defend your belts and become that champion at a weight class, do you feel like that's going to be at 140, 147, or maybe even 154?
Um, Probably 40,
Okay.
40, and then 47. But we'll just see what the future holds. Like I
Right.
take day by day. I do think about my future a lot,
Hmm.
but we're here now, and I'm just happy for what I accomplished now. But in
Okay.
18 months, I should be in world title contention, most definitely.
There's another aspect I want to get into you about, Kane. That's something that you're very vocal about. That's your faith. I want to get into that a little bit because I know you talk a lot about that. Can you explain it to us? Like, why has that been such a prioritization in your life to want to be vocal about your faith?
Because it saved me.
Hmm.
It saved me. Now I'm letting people know because I was in a dark place mentally,
Okay.
and um and I feel like if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here.
Right. At what point in your life, when was the transition where you really gave your life over and you said, you know what, I'm going to pursue this relationship with God. I'm going to get to know Him better.
Um, it was after my daughter got really sick,
Okay.
and I didn't know how to cope with it. I
Hmm.
started drinking and stuff, trying to cope with it, not training. Like my gym was my escape, but then I didn't know what to do when I went to the gym and I was still in that dark place. I'm like, where do I run to?
Right.
So I was all like, I can't crash out. I can't just just drink my dreams away, drink everything away. Like
Right.
everything I worked for since I was 5 years old, what my parents worked for, and it's like, so I was just started praying, gave my faith, like, all right, this is happening for a reason, and I have to bounce back. It's not like, oh, like it's okay if you crash out. It's okay if you become a bum on the streets. Like no, like
Mm.
I'm destined to do this. So I just put my faith in God, started praying, and He blessed me, man. I'm blessed. I'm blessed.
You know what's crazy about that is that so many people that go through tough times, and I know everyone at some point is going to deal with some extent of obviously difficult times, but your question is always going to be, do you pursue God? Do you get to know Him in those tough times, or do you go the opposite direction? You just answer that. Obviously, we know which way you decided to go. For those listening, though, that are going to go through tough times, why is Jesus the right way? Why do you need to pursue God?
I'm not gonna say like, oh, pursue religion, but just
Right.
have faith in something.
Hmm.
You can't just be like, oh, there's no hope, there's no faith, just fucking give up. Like, no, you can't be thinking like that. Like,
Right.
there's much more than life than just giving your life up to drugs, alcohol, or just ending it all. Like, you matter in this world.
Absolutely, man. Well, Kane, I've got one final question I want to wrap up with you discussing. That's something that I always like wrapping up each and every single interview with, and that's discussing your legacy. At one point in your life, you're going to obviously step away from boxing. That day will come. When that happens, what is it that you want the legacy of Cain Sandoval to be?
That I inspired kids around the world.
Hmm.
Because that was my biggest thing. I was like looking up to all these boxers, and I'm like, man, I wish like one of these boxers reach out to me and be like, oh, here's some
Hmm.
gloves, or like respond to my message,
Right.
or repost my video, and be
Hmm.
like, I could brag about it to my friends, like, oh, this boxer reposted my video, this and that. So sometimes when I have time, I go through my requests, my DMs, and
Right.
I responding, and the people be like, or there'd be like teenagers, like 12, 13.
Sure.
They'd be like, oh my God, you responded. Like, no way, bro. Like, I appreciate you. And I'm like, nah, it's all good. Like, cause I wish I had somebody like that. So if I inspired at least one kid, that's all.
I
That's all I
want to
need.
quickly follow up on that, man, because that's awesome to hear that because I feel like that is such a huge thing. So many guys, kids are going to be going through different tough times in life. And like you said, to have something that they can look up to. Has that been something that you just developed over the past couple of years? Has that always been your heart to want to be able to reach out and kind of be that inspiration for kids?
That's always been my thing.
Okay.
Like even in amateurs, when I used to go to the tournaments and come back, and I'd be like, oh, bro, like how do you do it, bro? Like I want my. They'd be like parents. They'd be like, oh, I want my son to be like you. And I'd be like 16 amateur, and I'd be like,
Okay.
just don't force him to box. Like if he wants to box, it'll work out. Because my dad never forced me to box. Like, oh, you have to box.
Okay.
I want to box. He told me sometimes when I was like young, he'd be like, man, like you should go to school. Because I was really smart in school. I was, honor classes and stuff. And he's like,
Okay.
look, you're good in school. Just like, but if you like boxing, like do boxing. I'm like, I love boxing. Like, I'm gonna keep doing this.
Okay.
But um, inspiring kids, that's like my biggest thing for sure.
Overall, when you talk about legacy, you just said that's going to matter more than anything you accomplish outside the ring. Being able to be inspirational that people look up to. Does that come with pressure at all when you realize that so many kids are looking up to you and looking at you as somebody that they can grow up to be like?
Definitely, it does come with pressure, but it's like it's nothing to me. I've
All right.
been under pressure my whole life, and pressure makes diamonds, and I'm here
Yep.
to shine.
I love that, man. Well, Kane, I appreciate you for taking time to come on, man. It's a blessing having you on the show, and best of luck on June 21st.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me.
Of course, you're always welcome on, man. God bless.
Yeah, God bless you too.